Bore da pawb, good morning everybody, and diolch yn fawr am y gwahoddiad y bore yma. Thank you so much for your invitation to be with you here this morning. I'm very grateful. As you all know, at least I hope you all know, last September we published our education strategy entitled Our National Mission. The overall objective of our national mission is simple, it's clear, and crucially, it is ambitious. Together, we will raise standards, reduce the attainment gap, and deliver an education system that is a source of national pride and of public confidence. You won't be surprised to hear that you, our teachers of tomorrow, are absolutely integral to the success of our national mission. In training to teach, you have already committed your time, energy, enthusiasm, money to this most valuable profession. You recognise in the importance and the power of education to change lives and to make a difference to represent who we are as a Welsh nation. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you, as I recognise that there are easier routes available. Let's be honest, there are routes with fewer hours, and there are routes with less stress. But as far as I'm concerned, teaching is the most important and rewarding job in the world, and I mean that most sincerely. Day in and day out, you are shaping lives. You are making a difference, giving young people the opportunity to be the very best that they can be, no matter who they are or no matter where they have come from. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever walked past Great Ormond Street Hospital in London. The motto of that hospital never ceases to stop me in my tracks. The child, first and always. And it's that clarity of vision that stays with me as I do this job. So to deliver on our promises, to deliver our national mission, we in this room and in classrooms across the country, we have a unique opportunity to shape the very essence of our education system. And I'm sure you'll all agree, that is an immense privilege. And it's an opportunity that all of us, each one of us, has to take. Now, I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about our new curriculum that will be starting to be rolled out in Welsh schools from September 2022. I wanted to talk to you about it because not only is it a hugely important part of our education reform, but it's also a really good reflection of how we do things differently in Wales, how we trust in you, the teaching profession. By introducing a transformational new curriculum, we have set ourselves a big task, but I make no apology for that. Our new curriculum will represent what we want, indeed what we expect the citizens of the future to become, what they know, and to what they have gained from their time in Welsh schools. But the process of working together to shape that curriculum also represents what we want from our system. A profession that collaborates, a profession that is open to new ideas, that is always learning and is always raising standards for all of our pupils. Now, I've been very lucky over the last year to meet educationalists from across the world. They all know that the way in which we're undertaking these reforms, the Welsh way, is founded on collaboration, creativity and confidence. And they are watching on with great interest and are taking a very keen interest in that approach. In shaping the curriculum together, we, all of us, have invested in a shared national mission to inspire healthy, enterprising, confident young people, equipped with the knowledge and the skills that they will need now, and crucially what they will need for their futures. Of course, what we teach our children is hugely important, but our education system can only be as good as our teachers, those in every single classroom in Wales. Providing good quality training is therefore a priority for me and for the Welsh Government. Initial teacher training is incredibly important, of course it is, but it doesn't end there. That is just the beginning. I'm sure it won't have escaped your attention, but there are a number of reforms underway in Welsh education. I expect teachers to take control of their professional learning whilst also being given the time to teach and have confidence in what they are teaching. So as teachers, I will support you through the new professional standards for teaching, promoting ambition, aspiration and ownership, and raising the standard of the profession as a whole. Now I need to be clear here. I do not mean that I think that the standard of teaching in Wales is subpar. Far from it. I see every week excellence that is already in our education system. Instead, these new standards will establish a high-status teaching profession by providing a framework to support the development and to support leadership at all levels. And this is an opportunity I hope that you will all welcome. All good educators know that they will teach better lessons tomorrow than they taught today, as they also are learning all of the time. Teachers are lifelong students, learning from each other, continuously improving and studying best practice, whether that is in the next classroom, the next county, or indeed the next continent. So, to conclude, it is you, as individuals, as a collective, as future leaders, that are changing the course of our education story in Wales, turning that corner towards a bright and confident future, working together to ensure that a child's background doesn't determine their future, together to raise standards in all of our schools, and working together so that Wales can become a world leader in education. So again, I thank you for being here today, and I hope that we can continue to work together, move forward in this way, and build on these strong foundations. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We are very fortunate today to be able to engage with the Cabinet Secretary, and she's noted for her willingness to engage with the profession. And if you are aware of our website, Yr Athrofa.com, ydych chi'n gyfarwydd ar y wefan, fe welwch chi bod yr ysgrifennydd cabinet wedi ysgrifennu blog iddi. She's written a blog on our website. It's worth you having a look if you haven't done so already. And to quote, she says that these are exciting times for education in Wales. And we're very, very fortunate that she's here today to avail you, the people who can make the difference, to engage with her, to ask questions, and to find out more about the way we're moving forward in Wales. You're going to make the difference. Chi sy'n mynd i wneud y gwahaniaeth. Chi sy'n mynd i'r ystafell ddosbarth yna I ddylanwadu ar fywyd y pobl ifanc. You are the ones who are going to influence the young people in Wales. And it is a difficult job, it is a hard job, but it is a special opportunity to change lives and make a difference. And together, I think the last sentence in the blog that you wrote, together we can make that difference. So we're going to have about 40 minutes now for you to ask any questions that you would like, if you happen to come. When I mean any questions that you would like, I mean about education in Wales. Okay? So let's confine it to that at least. When I give looking out the question, we have today's meet as well, which we are having questions online, so we won't be short of questions, I'm sure. So if you're happy for us to continue, we shall.
Okay.
It won't be a huge nightish, I'm sure. But
it can't be worse than question time, which is the most terrifying experience that I have ever had in my political career. They put glasses of water in front of you on the table in question time, and you can't drink the glass of water because, well, I can't anyway, because when I go and reach for it and pick it up, I'm like this. And I don't want anybody on national television to see that I literally am shaking. But hopefully it'll be better than that.
Great. We often have a question, Gert. Who would like to go first with a question? Who's going to break the ice?
Oh,
Go
well
ahead.
done.
You said you could learn from the next classroom, the next county and the next continent, but you didn't say country. So I'm thinking, what can we in Wales learn from England about education in terms of academies, for example?
Okay, not a lot. No. I think what we've got to recognise that no system is perfect, and there is things that we can learn across all systems. But I think there is a bit of a myth about academies. Actually, if you look at the statistics in terms of educational outcome, there is no evidence to suggest that actually academies or schools that have remained under local authority control actually do any better. So this idea that an academy status suddenly raises standards in that particular school is a bit of a myth that's been perpetuated for political ideological reasons, not because actually there's any evidence about it. What we also know about the system across in England, where and Justine Greening has probably lost her job because of it, and because of her resistance to the move forward of the grammar schools. What we do know is that grammar schools are hugely detrimental to social mobility, and what I'm interested in creating in Wales is equality, is an equality of educational opportunity, regardless of where you're from, regardless of the size of your parents' paycheck, and regardless of some of the challenges that you may find. I'm delighted to come here today because my mother was born on Gorse Avenue. My mother was born on Gorse Avenue, and I spent a lot of my childhood in Blaenau Maes, because when they built the Blaenau Maes estate, my mother's family was moved from Gorse Avenue to Blaenau Maes. So, I'm one generation away from a very deprived background, and I've got, my mother's determination for education to be a ladder out to something better. I think is really, really important. There's a reason why the Welsh word for ladder and school is the same word, ysgol. Innately, in our DNA, we understand that education is a ladder to something a bit better. So I think, whilst I'm always open to ideas from anywhere, I'm not so proud that I think we've got nothing to learn from anyone else. But this idea that grammar schools and academies are the way to raise standards in Welsh schools is a distraction. The way to raise standards in Welsh schools is to have fantastic initial teacher education programs and, crucially, ongoing continuous professional opportunities for teachers to keep on learning. That's how we will get to be the best, not because we have some artificial discussion about structure. Smiley?
Nessa?
I have a question more about the Welsh language and the Welsh medium sector. So, in your opinion, do you think the target of 1 million Welsh speakers by 2050 is realistic? What strategies are in place to achieve the target? And will there be more Welsh medium secondary schools in years to come?
Okay. Well, it's certainly an ambitious target. I think that is a fact. Nobody could deny that. And of course, education is going to be absolutely crucial in the government reaching that target. So there are a number of challenges. Of course, reaching that target on its own can't just be the job of education. There's lots of other activities that the government is engaged in. But crucially, access to good quality Welsh education is crucial, and that doesn't mean just Welsh medium schools. It is about raising the quality of teaching Welsh in our English schools. The children are leaving our English medium schools with good linguistic ability, and of course we're changing our GCSE exams around Welsh. We're changing the way in which we're going to teach Welsh in English medium schools, but also encouraging parents to choose bilingual education delivered in a Welsh medium school is also really crucial. We're pretty much on track of where we need to be in the primary sector, but there are real challenges in the recruitment and the retention of Welsh medium specialists in our secondary sector. I know this better than anybody. My children are in the Welsh stream at Llanfair Miallt in North Wales, and my daughter, who is in a GCSE year, who has done Welsh done her maths in Welsh medium, she went to a Welsh medium primary school, and has done her maths education through the medium of Welsh. In her final year has had to move into English stream because the Welsh maths teacher has left. So, you know, I see it in my own personal life about a challenge. So we've got new incentives for Welsh medium teachers, and almost like a golden handshake if they qualify. So there's extra financial incentives for those people who are going into our sector. But we also have to look to the here and now. I can't sit back and just wait for that next generation of teachers, because there's kids in classrooms now who need access. I'm not supposed to say because we haven't formally announced it, but we are working, we are working on a project with Ceredigion Council. It's based on the experience of the Ysgol in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland and how they manage access to Gaelic education in remote areas. So we're hoping to have an announcement later on this year about how we're going to use new technology and base our experience, base a project on some experience up in Scotland. So yeah, lots going on, but education is crucial to that. But I don't think we should underestimate the job that we need to do in explaining to parents the benefits of a bilingual education and the benefits for their children studying Welsh to GCSE level in English medium schools, because I do get a lot of correspondence about people, you know, complaining about that, and we need to demonstrate that there's a real cultural, yes, but economic imperative. You know, there is a whole host of professions out there where, you know, we're desperate to recruit people with Welsh language skills, nursing, you know, nursery provision, care provision for the elderly. So there's a real economic imperative to being a bilingual person.
So another question here.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, my question is about the curriculum for like when you're developing. I don't know whether my question is there, but it's about how you will the curriculum that is being developed cater for new people coming to us at that time, and secondly, will it be differentiated pedagogically among diverse secondary schools, and also in terms of the subjects, because I'm in maths, will it also be differentiated in terms of the mathematical language, numeracy, and mathematics itself?
Okay. So the new curriculum is based on 6 areas of learning and experience, but underpinning all those areas of learning and experience is our literacy and our numeracy strategy, and how we can continue to develop literacy and numeracy through all subjects. The crucial thing about the curriculum is to have a framework, but real independence for the profession and individual schools to tailor that curriculum to how it best meets the needs of the children in their particular school, in their particular part of Wales. And crucially, I think what's really, really different about what we're doing in the past, and there will be people here that will have direct experience, there are teachers, head teachers here. When the national curriculum was first introduced, it was very much at that time the government in Westminster, because the Assembly didn't exist, simply dictating to teachers, you will teach this. You know, this is what you will do. And I think that robbed the profession of creativity and of the ability to tailor-make a curriculum that best met their needs and their children's needs. So crucially, that professional freedom, I think, is really important. That means it's quite a difficult job to explain what the new curriculum is going to look like, because because we're not going to dictate it to schools. So although we will be saying these are the 6 areas of learning and experience, and these are the concepts of what matters. What matters in maths? You know what? Yeah, well, I can't teach everything. But you know, what are the big concepts in maths? And crucially, you know, what are the big concepts that a child leaving school at 16, or a child that never goes on to study maths at A level or at higher education, what are the mathematical concepts you need as an individual to be a successful citizen? You know, what are the mathematical concepts and the skills that you need to manage your life as a responsible citizen. And I saw a fantastic example of this just down the road in Yr Athrofa school recently. A Year 8 maths lesson, but they were doing it in the umbrella of tax. So doing maths, but working out tax. How much tax would you have to pay? And therefore, yes, learning maths, but also learning a valuable life skill about understanding how you apply that maths in your life. Because not every child in that classroom is going to go on to study maths A-level or further maths or go to university to do maths. But my goodness me, every child in that classroom needs to understand a pay slip and needs to understand about how you calculate tax and things like that. So that's the beauty of the new curriculum, and maths is giving those students who are going to be specialists the underpinning that they need in that subject, but crucially empowering every single person to be numerate enough to be an active citizen, so they know how to negotiate a credit card bill. They're not going to get ripped off, you know, because those are the skills that we need our young people to have when they leave school. But it's a bit difficult to explain at the moment because we're still at the what matters phase, so it's a kind of a messy way of developing a curriculum, but I think it's absolutely the right way, because the alternative is, for me, and a few so-called experts in government to say, this is what you're going to teach. And as I said, I think that's been the problem in the teaching profession. It's robbed the profession of creativity and opportunity.
I'll come back to you. Kirsty, come on.
Thank you for your talk, Minister. It feels to me over the last few years that teachers taking a bit of a battering, especially within the press. You see all in the newspaper, you see teachers leaving about workloads and things like that, and about the teaching profession, the BGC courses. People aren't applying for them, numbers are down. What is the Welsh Government's plan, not only to recruit new teachers such as us, but also to retain the current batch of teachers that are finding it very difficult at the moment?
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely crucial. You'll be aware, a couple of years ago, Welsh Government really slimmed down the number of people, or the courses that we commissioned, the number of places. So you guys that are on courses are absolute critical mass. We need all of you in our Welsh classrooms, and we need all of you to stay there. So I think there's no silver bullet to this. I was meeting yesterday with our new advisor, who was setting up an advisory board for me on teacher recruitment and retention. And I said to him, you know, what do I need to do? And he said, you need to find a magic wand, Minister. He said, but in the absence of finding a magic wand, there are a number of things that you need to do. And good initial teacher education is crucial, so that people are equipped when they get into those classrooms. They're equipped to be able to do the job. They don't say, hang on a minute, my initial teacher education has not prepared me for this challenge. We need then really great mentoring, so that actually new people to the profession are properly supported. So those first couple of years, which are really, really, really challenging, there's proper support and mentoring there. We need to redouble our efforts to, I think, advertise the fact that this is a great job to do. I mean, this is one of the arguments sometimes I do have with the unions. They spend all their time saying what a terrible job it is to be a teacher, and then they say, why aren't we recruiting teachers? And I say, well, maybe we should stop telling everybody what a horrible job it is. You know, there are challenges in the profession. I don't want to pretend those challenges aren't there, but if we keep saying what a terrible job it is, we're not going to recruit and retain people. We're about to embark on a more coordinated national recruitment campaign, but I should say, you guys almost give me a big shock, because there I am watching S4C over the Christmas holidays, and all of a sudden this advert appears about becoming a teacher, and I was furious. I was like, oh, the officials have launched this advertising campaign and I haven't even seen it, and I'm supposed to be in charge, but it's your advertising. It was a Trinity advertising campaign. I was like, so we need to do more to advertise the benefits of it. How we go to a situation where there's greater respect for the profession, I think, is more challenging. One of the things that's been really an eye-opener for me is how sometimes a very small minority of parents interact with their schools. Some parents who want to make a complaint to their school sometimes think it's clever to copy me into the email. And I just think, oh my goodness, this poor head teacher is opening this email and the parent has copied me into it. And I'm really surprised, actually, how some of those emails are written. Really, it's perfectly legitimate to ask questions of a head teacher, but sometimes, not very nice emails. And how we need to somehow in society have that debate about holding teachers in higher esteem and having the profession held in higher esteem. I can't do it all on my own now. This is about the profession owning its professionalism as well. It is about the profession itself looking around, looking at itself and challenging poor practice when they see it, but also supporting their colleagues who are struggling. So there's only so much a minister or a government can do. In the end, it is the profession themselves that have got to challenge themselves to be the professionals they want to be, and we need to play then an empowering and a supporting role, and that's what the new standards are all about. It's about creating that expectation and that environment about a profession and what it means to be a professional, what the expectations are, but also the entitlement to mentoring, continuing professional development, the opportunity to look at research, for instance, so that there's a research underpinning what I do in my classroom. I know I'm doing this because I know it works, and I know crucially why it works. And those kind of approaches.
Do you think the freeze in teacher pay has had a detrimental effect on teacher retention?
I think without a shadow of a doubt, the pay cap is beginning to have an effect. I think that's the same across the public sector. Teachers' paying conditions aren't devolved at present, and whether we would have the resources, to do anything significantly different at this stage, even if the word devolved, is really, really challenging, because if we pay teachers more, then that's less money for school budgets in the sense of other aspects of what we need to spend on education. As you know, teachers' paying conditions will be being devolved to the Welsh Government this year. The First Minister and myself have assured people that Welsh teachers will not be at a financial disadvantage. It's not in our interest to pay our teachers any less than they would be paid. Crucially, though, I think for many, many teachers, it's not just about pay, it is about the conditions in which they're working in. I come across very few teachers who go into the profession, they know what the pay scales are, they're not wanting to, they're not expecting to be millionaires. They do it because they have a passion for their subjects, they have a passion for children and the profession. So I think what we can do when paying conditions come is to really work hard on the conditions and create the conditions for teachers that are really supportive, rather than necessarily thinking all the time about pay. Or as I said, we need to pay people a proper wage, a fair wage for what they do, not to be disadvantaged. But I really hope that this devolution of this power gives us an opportunity to look at the conditions as well, because I think for most teachers that is crucially important to them.
Yeah, in your document and in the launch back in September, you mentioned that in the profession there needs to be accountability, and everyone will hold accountability for their action. But can you describe the trust and the freedom that will be portrayed from Welsh Government when we move from the traditional box curriculum to the new curriculum, and how that will look, and how people will be held accountable?
Okay, so we're in, this is another big set of reforms that we're under. We need to move away to a smarter form of accountability. We have to have accountability in the system. We can't get away from that, because the profession is there to do a job of work. And just like I'm held accountable, questions in the Assembly, coming here today to be held accountable in lots of different ways, teachers are no different. They need to be accountable for their practice and their actions. But the way in which we've previously held schools accountable was probably right for the time and right for where Welsh education was at that particular moment. But Welsh education has moved now, and therefore we need to move our accountability measures alongside that, and it will be crucial in terms of the new curriculum. So currently we're looking at the principle. What would be the principles of a new accountability system? Well, it needs to be fair, it needs to be transparent, it needs to be easily understood by all. It needs to be as game-proof as possible, because there are people in the system that will game, any accountability regime we come up with. So it needs to be as protected against that as possible. It has to have the public confidence. It has to have the public confidence. It has to recognise the whole cohort. Sorry.
Continue to dominate the teacher.
Well, I think we can come up with a smarter form of accountability that looks at, yes, results, but results for the whole cohort, not just the CD borderlines, or not just the higher achievers, but actually looks at the entire cohort. I think we need to look at how we can measure value added. So what is the effect of my teaching been? How have I really made a difference to this particular person, this particular student's life? So we need to look at the issue of value added. What do I want as a parent from my school? I want my kids to get good results. I want the quality of the teaching to be good. And I want them to be in a safe and happy environment. Because if they're not willing to go to school in the morning, or they spend their time in school worried about stuff, they're not going to learn. So those are the three things I think we need to look at. We do need to look at results. We need to look at the quality and the impact of the teaching. And we need to look at the entire environment of the school. And I think if we build our accountability around those three principles, then I think we'll be moving to a more smarter form of accountability, which teachers, I hope, will embrace.
Another question?
Hi, mine is to do partly with the Welsh language and funding. I understand that you're introducing a lot of Welsh language into schools now, which I think is fantastic. However, in places like Carmarthenshire, where there's a lot of investment at the moment into Welsh language schools, there's a lot of cuts in English language schools, to the point where my children's school has to get rid of 3 teachers and can't even afford new books. So I'm just wondering, with your quality that you're sending out, and what will you then to improve this and to ensure your safeguarding the Future Generations Act?
What school?
It's Darwin Primary School.
Darwin Primary School.
There's a lot of cuts in Carmarthenshire.
We don't directly fund schools.
Right.
So we don't have a national funding formula.
Yeah.
It is up to each individual local authority to make
That's what I'm
decisions.
saying is the whole of Carmarthenshire at the moment is spending a lot of money on Welsh language schools, but the funding being kept.
Okay.
What I think.
Well, my advice would be to look at the funding formula and to look exactly at how Carmarthenshire are making decisions about its budget. We don't fund schools directly, so some of the unions want me to have a national funding formula, but we've seen across the border in England what happens when you have a national funding formula and then you try and change it. If I was to introduce a national funding formula now here in Wales at a time of real restraint on Welsh budgets, we would have some schools, yes, would be winners, and they would be clapping their hands and they would be very happy, but invariably, if there are winners, there are losers in the system. And I think we've got so much going on in Wales at the moment, some massive change in the way in which we fund schools would be highly disruptive. That's not to say in the future we could look at different funding models, but at the moment I just don't think we're in a place where we could move to a national funding model. And how can you in a national funding model, really account for all the different challenges? So teaching in the school in Davin is a very different school to a school, for instance, in my own community, maybe Dolai School, a very small rural school right out in the countryside, small numbers of pupils, or a school in Swansea or in Cardiff where there are, 10, 15 different languages at home, a really diverse school, or a school in Blaenau Maes, high levels of free school meal versus Cardiff High School where there are very few children on free school. It's that diversity. And I think that's difficult to capture in a national funding model, which is why we give that job to locally elected and locally accountable politicians. But that's not to say, there are some programmes which we do fund nationally, but I am happy to go back and have a look at what Carmarthenshire are to do.
Don't tell them yet. Any more questions? Sorry.
With the new curriculum rapid approaching, I've got a slight concern over the skills gap between current key stages. So, for example, in history, there are certain skills you need to get higher levels of GCSE. The evidence I've seen through curriculum pioneers suggests these skills are not going to be covered through what would be 7, 8, 9. So, how are you going to ensure that parents give them these skills for kids to be able to grasp them for the GCSEs?
Oh gosh, now you've got me down into kind of like timetabling and number of hours. You know, I have huge confidence in our ability to work with the profession to get them into a place to get people ready. But I do recognise that for the secondary sector, the new curriculum is a much bigger challenge than it is for the primary sector. I think in many of our primary schools, there's not a massive jump from the principles, for instance, of foundation phase through to the rollout of the curriculum across the whole age range. But for high schools, secondary schools, this is a big change. And that's why I made the decision before Christmas to roll out the curriculum rather than a big bang. Initially, the curriculum was going to come in overnight on September. Bang, that's it. All curriculum dropped in July, starting something new in September. And I think for the secondary sector, especially for those who are part of the way through their secondary journey, that would have been of detriment to those particular pupils. And therefore, we need to roll that out from year 7 upwards. We also are going to have to look at what GCSEs are going to look like. And again, that's another reason to have a rollout of the programme so that we can get our high-stakes examination system fully compatible with that curriculum. And that's absolutely crucial. So I want to reassure you that at every stage of the curriculum development, Qualifications Wales are around the table with us, thinking very, very hard about how you would examine the new curriculum in high-stakes end-of-school examinations. Because what I don't want to happen is if you have the principles of Donaldson all the way through primary, 7, 8 and 9, and then 7, 8 at year 9, you say, right, forget about all of that now, 2 years, head down, hot housing just to get you through your GCSEs. And that would be a real failure if we end up doing that. So that's another reason why we've slowed down the rollout in the secondary sector, so we can get our examinations fully compatible with the principles of the curriculum earlier on, because it's a real challenge in the secondary sector.
So we're moving into the new curriculum, but how are you going to support schools, specifically with the DCF, especially when there's so few IT specialists within these schools and funding is poor in that area?
Okay, so for once I'm in a room full of experts, so I don't have to explain what the DCF is. As you know, that's the first part of our new curriculum to come out. So that gives us the longest possible opportunity. It's not statutory at the moment, but I've been really encouraged by the number of schools are really embracing it and getting to grips with it now. They're not waiting until they're required by law to do that. And the reason they're doing it is because they understand that those children need those skills. Continuous professional learning is absolutely key to all aspects of the curriculum, and consortia are working with pioneer schools, with local education authorities around programmes for teachers to get them up to the speed and to give them the skills. I've just been at Swansea University at their outreach project and speaking to some of the computer science guys there who have got a programme specifically for teachers to come in and to talk about the DCF and to talk about computer science and actually how you can do that in your school and why you don't need loads and loads of kit to do it, because that computational thinking, you don't need a whiz-bang computer to start to think about computational thinking and teaching that in your classes. But you're right, the big challenge is ensuring that there are opportunities for professional development for teachers already in the system in all aspects of the new curriculum, and it's about how we can make that a reality. So, I am aware for a school to release someone to go on the course, then that means they have to backfill, and that potentially costs money. So we need to be a bit clever about what continual professional learning also looks like. And I think the days of having the sage on the stage lecturing people about how they need to change their practice in their classroom, those days are long gone. It doesn't work. We need something much more teacher-friendly, but also practice-friendly to really see the difference in our classrooms.
Any question, Alex?
Hello there.
Sorry, it's really hot.
I know, yeah.
So many people in
Usual
here.
for town hill.
I know.
We're going for is that we wonder what will happen after the Global Futures funding has finished.
Oh. Well, what I can say is, I think that the ability to speak another language is a fantastic skill for a young person to acquire. And we are working really hard to make sure that the money that we're putting into Global Futures really makes a difference. And, you know, I can't, you know, I'm on a at best 2-year budget cycle, so I can't, I'm got a crystal ball, but I can't imagine that we would want to pull back from a strong commitment to supporting modern foreign languages, because I think that it is such a joy for young people. It's one of my big regrets from my own schooling, and I spent a lot of my Christmas holiday playing, is it a game by Clue? Travelling around France with my little girl, learning vocabulary, and it's been a great joy to see her really enjoying learning another language, a third language in her case, and she's nagging like crazy now that we go to France on holiday this summer because she wants to be able to go to the boulangerie to buy food in French. Because she says to me, "I've done my food vocabulary by the summer, I'll be fine, Mum, I can do it all for us."
So what's your vision for bilingual class 1 in primary schools, and what are you doing about it?
Well, again,
Well, sure it's not as bad as questions.
yeah, it's getting there. We're glad. So in the new curriculum, you know, we're hoping that will really encourage the take-up of a broader range of languages even at primary school, and not, you know, there's some really excellent practice out there already at the moment in some primary schools, but that's not universal. But hopefully with the new curriculum there'll be a greater emphasis and an understanding and time, because it's often time, isn't it? It's often time to be able to explore that. That's not to say that there isn't some great practice out there at the moment, with some schools working really hard on having lots of languages spoken in their school.
One last question before we bring things to a close.
We had a lecture the other day on poverty, and a lot of the statistics in that lecture showed that the poorest pupils in Wales are doing statistically worse than the poorest pupils in Northern Ireland and in England. Now, do you think that's because of a failing perhaps in something the Welsh Government is doing, or is it that we're not getting a big enough national budget from Westminster, or is it perhaps down to another reason?
Okay, reducing the attainment gap is, for me, if I could do that in my term of office, that for me would be my biggest achievement. You may be aware that prior to being the Education Minister, when I was leader of my party, in negotiating budgets with the previous government, our priority was the establishment of the PDG, then called Pupil Deprivation Grant, now called the Pupil Development Grant. So in opposition, I was absolutely determined to get more resources into schools for the education of those pupils, and despite the really challenging financial circumstances we find ourselves in, we will spend £91 million this year on the education of children on free school meals. It is correct to say on average in England we're behind, but actually comparative regions in England we're doing better. We're doing better, and if you look at our GCSE results last summer, even with all the turmoil of the new GCSEs, there were many regions in England that we were performing better at with our FSM pupils than they were in comparative regions that would have a similar socio-economic, similar challenging circumstances that we're in. We have got to break that attainment gap for the sake of those individual children, but for the sake of our nation. If we're to raise the prospects of our country as a whole, we have got to do better for those children, and we have got to find strategies. Now, we've made progress. The gap has closed in recent years between free school meal and non-free school meal pupils. We've had a big challenge this last summer on GCSEs because of the big changes, but there's no there isn't a pattern that in every local authority, or even in every school in every local authority, that FSM fell back. There are some schools where FSM did better. So this idea that somehow the new GCSEs are just too hard for poorest children to take is nonsense. And I did have a head teacher come and tell me that, and we told him it was nonsense. But we've got to, I think we've got to be smarter. I think lots of the low-hanging fruit and those strategies have probably been achieved by now, so we've got to get even smarter. So I was up in Denbighshire recently, talking to them in Denbighshire, and they were looking at children at foundation phase who had not achieved their specific levels at foundation phase. And they were working in a multidisciplinary team. This wasn't just a job for schools, this was a job for social services, this was a job for the health service, and as a council they were working collectively across all those partners to say, right, what is it in the circumstances of this family that we can make things better that allows that child to make the most of their educational opportunities? Because this can't be just a job for schools. It has to be a job for all those other agencies that are supporting those families. And I think that's the job that I have around the cabinet table, is being an advocate for schools. Because I go to too many head teachers who tell me they spend a disproportionate amount of their time not thinking about teaching and learning, but chasing social services, chasing CAMS, chasing the health service. And I need those head teachers to be thinking about teaching and learning, not running around trying to find those other authorities. So we've got to get, especially for that cohort of students and some of our more vulnerable students, a much more joined up approach to supporting families to be the very best, to give the very best opportunities for their children. But it's out there. Anybody here from Llanelli? Anybody from Llanelli? Who knows Joe Kidd? Anybody heard of Joe Kidd? Wow. Look at what Joe has done in the Morfa in Llanelli. Really tough place. And Joe Kidd has done amazing work working with families about raising attainment for children. And he sees himself as not just the head teacher for that school, but he's got a community centre, he's got the mums coming in to learn and to train and doing amazing work. So there's a job to do for schools, we can be even better, but it also needs a multi-agency approach.
Thank you. There will be an opportunity to ask questions to the professional advisor colleagues who are staying on. I understand. I know the Cabinet Secretary's time is short. Those of us who are longer in the tooth in the profession, it took me, I think, about 25 years before I had the opportunity to talk to somebody that was leading education on a national basis. So, another look is you're very lucky to be able to engage with the Cabinet Secretary in this way, and I'd like to thank her for giving of her time and to ask one last question which is presented. Given the audience and given the interviewees at the back there, the question is, what would you say to graduates thinking about entering the teaching profession? That's one last opportunity before we leave it.
It's a cliche, but it's true. I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for an inspirational history teacher.
Most of them are.
That man changed my life because he saw something in me and sparked something in me. You have the opportunity to do that. And how amazing, long after you're gone and dead and buried, there'll be people saying about you, there was a teacher who changed my life. And there aren't many jobs in this world where you have the potential to be remembered, and remembered for all of the right reasons. Nobody, I'm under no illusions, nobody will ever remember Kirsty Williams, Cabinet Secretary for Education. Nobody will remember that. But you have the opportunity to be remembered with gratitude, because you have the opportunity to change lives. And my goodness me, there aren't many better ways of spending your time than changing lives. So grasp it, do it. I'll let you into a secret. I was supposed to do a PGCE in history many years ago, but the then UWIC pulled the course. So I never got to do my PGCE, and do you know what? It is one of the biggest regrets of my life.